nationwide this evening, Cork is preparing for Cfest this weekend. This is Ireland's largest maritime festival, embracing the abundant resources of our oceans. Now in its 5th year, Cfest began in Cork in 2015 and was celebrated in Galway for the next 3 years. Now it's returning to Cork, where it's throwing down its anchor for 3 more years. And while the people here regard Cork as the maritime capital of the country, the feeling is that Cfest is returning home.
Cfest is exposing all of us as citizens to what's going on with our oceans, recognising from an Ireland perspective we've more land in the ocean than we do on the island, but from a world perspective that we have a better understanding about what the sea has to offer, be it from an energy perspective, a food perspective, but also how we need to mind the sea. And the best way to do that is through fun and through the children. So this is just an example of some of the ships that will be here over the weekend, which will be great because people will be able to get onto the different ships. So the Navy, some fishing vessels, we are hoping to have a tall ship as well, all in along the quay.
For the last 3 years, the Cfest Festival has been very successful in Galway. So I presume you'd like to build on that.
Well, Galway enjoyed significant visitor numbers over the 3 years, and last year they were up at 100,000 in true fashion of Cork competition, but more importantly, just by the nature of the festival growing, I would hope that we will see in excess of 100,000 visitors to the festival this year, and obviously that growing over the next 2 years.
The recent Green Wave saw thousands of young protesters take to the streets and a trend towards Green Party support in the recent elections. School children are taking environmental issues to their hearts, and I've come to see an exhibition in Cove called Maintaining a Healthy Harbour.
We run a schools initiative every year, and we always come up with a theme that's sort of linked to the harbour and linked to the port, whether it's about education, history, environment, leisure. So it's hugely important. It's hugely important because for the children, they are our future. So we joined up this year with MARI, which is the research centre from UCC, and together with Clean Coast, they joined us on this project to be able to help us to judge it and to raise awareness of marine litter. So it all ties in perfectly with Cfest.
The winners were 5th class from St Columba School in Douglas, and Leona and Amy proudly show me their class project.
We were thinking that plastic, it's a monstrous problem, so we thought we could represent it by a monster, and thus we made this. The fact that plastic pollution, it's growing every day, so the monster, it's getting bigger and we keep on feeding it, but if we stop feeding the monster, he'll go away.
Amy, what kind of materials did you use for the project and where did you collect them?
So we went out to the beach and we'd find a lot of things like bottle caps or straws or toothbrushes or even plastic nets and ropes.
I asked the girls to choose their favourites from the other school entries. Leona's choice was from Dripsey National School.
This is my favourite because it's a time comparison between 1969 and 2019. In 1969, it's like there's no plastic in sight, whereas in 2019, there's lots of things that shouldn't be there, such as the Ferrero Rocher thing, there's the scourer, the tin cans, batteries, shopping basket, and there's an octopus stuck in there, and I don't think the octopus wants to be in a shopping basket at all.
Quill Skulls in the Douglas's project is my favourite because I love how it shows how much plastic can be inside a sea animal, like packets of crisps or popcorn or just treats or maybe wrappers of any sort. And I love their slogans and I love their creativity.
Give me one of their slogans there.
Well, I think my favourite one would be less plastic makes our harbour fantastic.
The ultimate aim is about protecting our oceans, but this project provides other incentives too.
There's a participation prize where there's a boat ride around the harbour, but for the winning team, we're going on a cruise ship because we won.
Congratulations again to all of 5th class from St Columba School in Douglas. And this exhibition, Maintaining a Healthy Harbour, will be on view at Cork's Custom House this weekend. When it comes to food, most of us are asking more questions about sustainable practices in the supply chain as a result of increasing awareness and concerns about our future environment.
This weekend, as part of Cfest, some famous faces will be teaching us a thing or two about the right questions to ask. And where better to start than here at the English market in the company of no less than food royalty, of course.
And these are anchovies.
Anchovies.
Which are really salty.
Richtig schön salzig sind die.
Because we have some really good pubs in Cork. So you'll have a lovely thirst for lunchtime to taste some of their beverages, all right?
Das macht er extra.
And when people are buying fish, Pat, what should they be aware of?
Freshness. There's no such thing as a bad fish, really, and it's all about the freshness, and it's all about local. Because of the changing demographic in Cork, we do import fish in the sense of bass and bream and tuna, because you've got a wider international mix now, so they kind of go for their own type of fish, so you do bring in a bit of that. But eventually you'll convince 99% of those people that, you know, local is best. We're suddenly waking up to the fact that, you know, we have got an absolutely tremendous variety of fabulous fish in this country.
What came in off the boat this morning?
Have you got an hour?
Well,
oh, we have hake, we have brill, we have turbot, we have black sole, we have haddock, we have cod, we have whiting. Oh, it's just a fabulous array. As always in Castletown Bear. It's not about having your mind made up coming in saying, I want 2 fillets of plaice or I want 3 fillets of whiting or whatever. It's a simple question of what do you recommend today? Because if you've got a good fishmonger who knows their fish, you're going to go home happy.
It's not long before I get a job behind the counter.
I'm ready. Will be taught by the master himself. Okay.
All was going well until this phone call interrupts our mischief.
Rory, I have a television crew here and they're dying to know what you want to cook. I have amazing hake, wild trout, black sole, stunning monkfish, turbot.
That's Ballymaloo calling with a fish order for dinner, and today it's decided monkfish is on the menu.
You go for monk. So this is the monkfish, sometimes referred to in Cork as the mother-in-law fish. Something to do with the teeth, even though I had a fantastic relationship with my mother-in-law, I'm proud to say.
Before I know it, I'm arriving at the home of celebrity chef Rory OConnell in East Cork.
Hi, Rory.
Anne, hi. Nice to see you. Welcome. Come in.
I come bearing fish.
Perfect. I have everything else we need. Come on in.
Lovely. What do you think we might need then from the garden?
Well, some pea leaves, flowers and tendrils, coriander flowers, and definitely some spuds. So this is the glass houses, or the greenhouses as we call them, and there's very little class going on there at the moment. People learning how to grow things in all manner of containers. It's lovely and warm, isn't it?
Lovely, gorgeous.
And all sorts of things growing. Tomatoes, peas, endless possibilities.
And where are we headed to?
We are headed down here. These little funny white flowers down here, and these are coriander flowers.
So I never knew that the coriander had a flower.
Yeah, and it's a really, really lovely thing. In fact, if these were left on the plant for long enough, those flowers would become seeds. So we'll serve some of those with Pat's lovely fish. We'll just sprinkle them over it.
Lovely.
The smell is not really beautiful, isn't it? Okay, the peas are here, Anne, and it's a little bit early for them. Okay, but again, this is a bit like the point I was making with the coriander, because every part of the pea plant is edible. Usually when you're growing peas, you're after a pea pod like that. But I find that if you wait for all the peas to be ready, you lose a lot. You're never going to be able to eat all of it. So quite early, I'll start to pick some of the lovely pea tendrils and the pea flowers and the pea leaves. It's all edible.
Any chance of a taste now, Rory?
Definitely. Let me get you a sort of a perfect little leaf. How about that one there? I mean, they're all kind of perfect in their way.
Of course they are. Okay. Sweet.
So we're going to serve these with the monkfish. And of course, coriander and pea goes brilliantly together. So with the monkfish, the sauce, and the potatoes, which we're going to get next, we should do something really simple but delicious. And the whole thing when you're digging spuds, which I love doing, I mean, I think everybody once in their life should dig a few spuds. And that moment when they're revealed like that, isn't that just glorious, isn't it? Yeah, it really is. The bullion sitting at the bottom of the root. And actually, a really important point about new potatoes is that when you're using them, is because the skin is so thin, the fresher or the more recently they were harvested, the better they're going to be. I think we've nearly enough.
Radio.
Okay, we'll leave that there for the next person.
Absolutely.
That's the unspoken rule.
So, kitchen next?
Kitchen next. We have everything we need. We can do a little bit of cooking.
It's all go around here, and as I line up the herbs, Rory already has the spuds on.
What I'm going to do with this, it's pretty simple really, like a lot of the cooking that we do. We try to get great ingredients and then a fairly simple treatment. I'm going to poach it, and then I'm going to make a little sauce with egg yolks and butter, our own eggs and good Irish butter, and then some of our herbs to garnish it. And over here, we have our spuds on the go, and hopefully everything will arrive at the same time. So, I've got a little water on for poaching the fish, and I'm going to add some salt in there, a generous amount of salt. You can think about how salty the sea is. Yeah, so it's that sort of thing. I'm going to make the sauce, and I'm making really a hollandaise sauce, really. So the better the eggs, the better the sauce. The better the eggs, the better the cake, and so on. I just want the egg yolks, so just separate the egg yolks. Keep your egg whites. Look at the colour of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's from the grass that they scratch on and feed on every day. Beautiful, not just free range, but actually organic. I'm going to put a tiny little bit of water in there, so I'm literally just going to flick up a little bit of water like that into the pan, just to get it going, okay? Then what's very important here, because I've got egg yolks, which could scramble. So just concentrate on getting a really, really low heat. What we do is just start to add in a couple of bits of butter at a time. Now this is a rich sauce, so this is a sauce you're not going to eat every day. Definitely not. It's a treat. So I keep going like this. And what I'm going to do at this stage is, because, well, in a moment or two, I'm going to put my monkfish on to cook. So salt in our water.
Yeah.
I'm whisking and watching. Whisking and watching. Pop in monkfish. We'll do one nice, generous helping like that. Monkfish is rich, so you don't need too much of it. Now, because this sauce is rich, and I want to cut that richness with a little bit of lemon, so I have a lemon here handy, and lemon comes from one of these, not from anything with a lid. So just there like that. A few little drops of lemon juice. That just cuts through the richness, sharpens up the flavour.
So all in all, the fish is poaching for quite a short time.
Yeah, 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, and I think the monkfish is cooked. So feeling slightly springy, not cardboardy. That's the thing. So straight away, take that out, and I'm putting it onto a little bit of kitchen paper. You could use a clean tea towel as well, or kitchen towel, just to drain off a bit of water there. So a nice warm plate, a hot plate really, but not too hot. Because interestingly, if your plate is too hot, like mad hot, you might scramble the hollandaise, so that wouldn't be so good. So fish lovely and hot. Nothing fancy, just simple. But the colour of that fish tells you a lot about its freshness. Great, so our sauce. So, not too much, because we know it's very rich. So, you know, sometimes people think, God, I can't do stuff that looks like that you get in restaurants at home, but you kind of can. If you have a few pots with herbs outside the back door, and then a little bit organised, and that's it. And all we need then to complete that feast are our new potatoes. So spuds, cork fish, cork spuds, and lovely green pea, chandrels, coriander, a little hollandaise sauce made with the local eggs and Irish butter. I think that's kind of feasty, isn't it?
Good enough to eat. I want a bit of flour. Okay. Absolutely gorgeous. And if that's sustainable food, then I'm in. And a reminder that Rory OConnell and Pat OConnell will be spreading the word at Cfest this weekend.
After the break, as Cork gets ready for Cfest, I take a tour through the city's docklands, and 2 swimmers prepare for this year's Rebel Plunge.
One of the highlights of this year's Cfest is unique to Cork. It's called the Rebel Plunge, and it involves a whopping 3.8 kilometre swim downriver from here at Custom House Quay to the Blackrock Boat Club. We're about to meet 2 seasoned swimmers for whom the Rebel Plunge is just like a casual afternoon swim.
Water's probably my sanity, really. Brilliant way to start the day, especially obviously on a morning like this, but even any morning. First you got the initial cold shock, but with it, once you're warmed up again, it's the best feeling in the world. I suppose with open water, because there's no boundaries, the possibilities are endless.
It's a drug. It gets to be something that you want. I decided I need to do something to improve my physique or my mental awareness or my mental health. And I've stumbled across swimming, and I've been swimming for the last 12 years.
With work, I'm sitting at a desk for 40 hours a week in front of a computer. I work as a data scientist, so the swimming is a good escape from that. It's something totally different.
We are here. Sheila's marked on the map. If you go down the hill and along McCurtain Street, this is the main city centre.
Sheila's hostel has been here since 1984. Sheila's my mother, and we have been in business for the last 35 years. My wife and myself bought the premises from my parents back in '97, just after we got married. And we're here now, and my family are currently rolling up their sleeves and getting involved and working with us in the business.
I think about everything when I'm swimming. So sometimes it's just what's going on in my life on the day. Sometimes I'm singing songs. Sometimes I'm doing maths problems. It's just a bit of everything.
When you get out there and you put your head down in the water, nobody can contact you. There's no distractions. There's no phones, emails, texts, WhatsApps. It's all gone.
In 2007, I ran a marathon. And after that, I was looking for a new goal, a new endurance goal. And I decided that I wanted to swim the channel. So I signed up in late 2007. During my training, I decided to change from a one-way channel to a two-way channel. So that was from England to France and back again. And I completed that in September 2009. And I was aiming to be the first Irish person to do that. The swim is 21 miles from England to France. So a two-way then would be 42 miles as the crow flies. My swim was 35 hours from start to finish.
The biggest challenge certainly was the English Channel. I swam that back in 2010. It took me 13 hours and 9 minutes. Swim from Dover to just south of Calais. As they say in the English Channel, nothing hard is easy. And it's a tough day.
Swimming the channel, like, you've got a boat next to you all the time, so there's always something to watch. But other than that, the only thing really to see out there are the big ships. Now, the ships out there can really be quite big, and at night they're very impressive actually, because they're very lit up, and it looks like kind of Christmas trees out in the middle of nowhere.
Mentally, when you're in there, you've just got to keep going. You've got to talk to yourself and keep yourself, you might start singing a couple of songs to yourself, but you're just going to keep going, keep getting to the other side.
People kind of talk about the mental physical divide, and a lot of people say it's about 90% mental. And I think I'd probably agree with that.
The Rebel Plunge is very popular, hugely popular. This is our 4th year this year, so we've 3 years under our belt. We started with 120 swimmers. We had 350 last year. We hope to top that again this year. Swimming in the River Lee is fantastic now since they cleaned it up, obviously, and never any complaints about anyone coming out of the river.
For the Rebel Plunge, there's also a lot of supporters come out down the marina, so that's really lovely that you feel like people are cheering you on the whole way.
Good luck to all those brave enough to take the Rebel Plunge on Sunday. And if you don't fancy getting wet, then Kieran McCarthy will be guiding walking tours through the evolution of Cork's docklands. I got my own personal tour, so had to pay very close attention.
So when you look around here, I suppose the wharfs that we're standing on are all late 1800s in date. But further up, we've got a very famous kind of Port of Cork sign, and behind that is actually the city's custom house. So even across the river, we've got the history of, we say, the railway station in terms of Kent Station, and next to that was the site of the first Cork-Dublin terminus that's been kind of redeveloped at the moment, the site itself, even though the old terminus is long gone. Behind us here, the Odlums building in terms of the history of flour milling in the city, and the history of grain silos. R&H Hall is kind of further up. And also we've got a really kind of neat story. When before these silos were actually constructed, there was actually the site of the first Cork Blackrock and Passage railway line. But you have to imagine a very busy place in terms of a big railway station across the way here, a mini railway station here, grain silos, flour milling. You have to remember the people talking on the docks and all the conversations that were actually had, and people getting off ships and people kind of asking them, where are you from?
And Cork, Kieran, as I understand it, had a very vibrant Jewish quarter at one point.
Yeah, it did. And in one sense, the heritage here on the left kind of marks that sort of old kind of heritage. So you kind of have to imagine up to 1880s Cork, there was something like 10 Jews living in the city. And then a group of Lithuanian Jews exiled from, we say, northwest Russia, arrived into our city docks. And basically what happened is that they were looking for accommodation. About 1884, 1885, when the lovely houses here on the left were opened, I suppose 1885 is about 150 kind of families, and then 20 years later we're talking 350 families. So when you look at the census of Cork, when you look at the old maps, you can actually map it out that nearly every second house was actually a Jewish family. And the area, I suppose, is affectionately called Jewtown. But unfortunately, the Jewish heritage here has very much kind of died away. But Shalom Park very much remembers the heritage. And there's actually a lamp in Shalom Park that actually is lit up only once a year to celebrate the end of the Jewish Hanukkah.
And just down the road from Shalom Park, we uncover yet more history in Kennedy Park.
300 years ago, I suppose in front of us you would actually see a swampland. And the thing about Cork City's history is that, and its built infrastructure, is that it's actually built, all of it's built on a swamp, 16, 17 marshy islands. And then as time went on, into the early 1800s, the land was reclaimed, and we ended up actually with a huge race course across this particular space. And actually many of the houses behind us here, and actually further up, the big 19th century houses are actually built to oversee these kind of this race course activity. And then when you kind of roll on by another 100 years after the time of the race course, the 28th of June 1963, John F. Kennedy actually took off in a helicopter from the centre of this particular park over there. And there was much furore and kind of excitement because he had just spent the day in Cork and he just had got the freedom of the city, which was kind of great. So this area, layer upon layer upon layer of kind of history.
When I'm retired from public life, that I will take the greatest pride and satisfaction in not only having been president of my own country, but a free man of this city. Thank you.
You can join Kieran McCarthy's Cork Docklands Walking Tour this Sunday, meeting at Kennedy Park at 2 p.m.
And don't forget that Cork is the place to be this weekend. Whether you want to get close to, on or into the water, just dive into Cfest, Ireland's largest maritime celebration. And so from all of us on the nationwide team, from Cork's quayside, have a great weekend.